My name is Frances Allard, and 3 weeks after my grandfather's funeral, my mother sent a group text. Family meeting, Sunday, 3 p.m. Be on time. No explanation, no warm-up, just a demand. And like a fool, I went. The house looked exactly as I remembered. Neat shrubs, blue shutters, a porch swing no one ever used. But something was different the moment I stepped inside. It wasn't the lighting. It wasn't the silence. It was the arrangement. My family seated stiffly in the living room, with two strangers in tailored suits already waiting. "Frances," my mother said, with that fixed smile she used at church potlucks and school fundraisers, the one that never reached her eyes. "Meet our family advisors." She gestured toward the two men like they were old friends, as if this wasn't an ambush with a dress code. One of them stood to shake my hand. I didn't move. I glanced at my sister Corinne, who stared into her lap like a scolded child, and then at my younger brother Mason, whose eyes were red but dry. My stepfather stood by the fireplace, arms folded like he'd been rehearsing that pose for weeks. "Would you like some coffee?" my mother asked. I set my leather folder on my lap and crossed my legs. "No, I'd like to know why I'm here." "Because we're family," she said, her voice syrupy and staged, "and your grandfather would have wanted us to work together." That's when I realized what this was. Not a meeting, not a conversation. It was a presentation, a coordinated effort to make me hand over the one thing they hadn't been able to steal when he was alive, his legacy, and unfortunately for them, I'd come prepared. My grandfather, Harold Vance, wasn't just the man who raised me. He was the reason I believed in structure, in spreadsheets, in sticking to the promises you make, even when no one's watching. He founded Vance Materials when he was 27, with a rusted pickup truck and a handshake loan from a neighbor. By the time I was born, it was a multi-state supplier of commercial-grade lumber, insulation, and concrete composites. Every contractor within 5 counties knew his name. As a child, while my sister begged for sparkly shoes and Mason played with train sets, I asked to visit the warehouse. I loved the sharp scent of pine, the hum of forklifts, the way Grandpa's voice carried through the steel rafters when he walked the floor. When I was 12, he handed me my first ledger and said, "Let's see how your brain handles columns instead of crayons." I was hooked. My mother, Denise, never understood it. She liked nice things, and she liked them fast. She once told me, "Your grandfather builds warehouses. I build a life." That life included 3 maxed-out credit cards, a leased Mercedes, and a revolving door of crisis purchases, spa retreats labeled as emotional recovery, handbags bought on clearance, and charity galas for networking. The will was read 2 weeks after the funeral, in a wood-paneled conference room that smelled of furniture polish and antique leather. My mother wore black silk and oversized sunglasses, like she'd stepped off the set of a low-budget soap opera. Corinne sniffled softly through the preamble. Mason just looked confused. The executor, Mr. Halbrook, kept a steady voice as he moved through the formalities. Minor bequests, a scholarship donation to Grandpa's alma mater, a small trust for a retired employee. And then, to my granddaughter, Frances Claire Allard, I leave the remainder of my estate, including, but not limited to, all remaining shares in Vance Materials, my personal investment accounts, real property holdings, and personal effects. The room froze. I felt it before I heard the reaction. "This is a joke," my mother spat, pushing her sunglasses up to her forehead. He must have been confused. "Read it again." "I've read it several times, Mrs. Vance," Halbrook replied, unfazed. "Your father was explicit." Corinne gasped like it was a line from a stage play. "He loved all of us. He wouldn't pick favorites." Mason didn't say a word. He just rubbed his hands together, like he didn't know what to do with them. "This isn't happening," my mother whispered. But it was. In that moment, I wasn't just his granddaughter. I was the sole heir to everything Harold Vance had built from the ground up. And I wasn't ready. Later that day, in the parking lot, my mother approached me with calm poison in her voice. "Just sign everything over," she said. "I'll divide it fairly. I'll make sure everyone's cared for. I didn't answer. Not because I was unsure, but because I needed to choose my words carefully. I need time to think. She narrowed her eyes. This isn't yours, Francis. It's ours. Family money, family legacy. That's not what Grandpa said. Her mask slipped. He was manipulated. You spent too much time with him. He wasn't well. But he had been. He'd updated the will 6 months before his death. Fully lucid, fully intentional. I remembered the day well. He'd sat me down in his study and said, "They're going to hate this. But I built this for someone who understands what it cost me to make it. That person's not your mother." It wasn't a compliment. It was a burden, a responsibility, and it was now mine. The first message came that night. It was from Corinne. "Please don't let this ruin everything. We're still your family." Then my mother. "You'll understand once you have children of your own. Family comes first." Then Mason, a single-word text at 1:43 a.m. Why? By morning, my voicemail was full. Old friends of my mother. Women I hadn't seen since the neighborhood bake sales in middle school. "Francis, I'm heartbroken. Your mother always spoke so highly of you. This is such a disappointment." Disappointment. That word showed up a lot. What they didn't see, what they'd never cared to understand, was what Grandpa and I had actually built together. Not just a business relationship, but a bond forged in mutual respect. I didn't inherit it like a lottery. I earned it, one spreadsheet, one late-night phone call, one warehouse visit at a time. But none of that mattered in the court of family opinion. 2 days later, Mason showed up outside my apartment. No call, just his hunched figure on the lobby security cam, hands jammed in his jacket pockets, looking like a kid who'd forgotten his homework. When I opened the door, he didn't step inside. "I'm not here to argue," he said. "Okay." He glanced up, his eyes bloodshot but focused. "Mom's losing it. She's already calling realtors. Says she needs to refinance the house before you freeze the assets." I blinked. "I haven't frozen anything." "She doesn't believe that." "Mason, I just wanted to warn you. She's planning something." Then he left. No hug, no handshake. Just walked back down the hall, like he wasn't sure if he belonged anywhere anymore. I closed the door and stood there, silent. Not sad, not angry, just empty. It was beginning. That night, Liam, my boyfriend, and the only person who hadn't treated me like an ATM with a soul, brought takeout and held my hand while I stared blankly at my rice. "I want you to meet someone," he said gently. "Her name's Angela Dwyer. She's a probate lawyer. Old friend from law school. She's not for a fight, unless you need one. She's for protection." I didn't answer, but I nodded. The next morning, I called Angela. We met in a quiet office above a florist shop. No mahogany desks or intimidating glass walls, just plants, natural light, and someone who listened without interrupting. After hearing everything, she leaned back, fingers steepled. "You're already in the middle of a coordinated pressure campaign," she said. "Classic family guilt tactics, but based on the will and what you've told me, you're on firm legal ground." "I don't want to fight them," I said. "I just want it to stop." "Then we prepare," she said, "just in case. Document every message, every voicemail, every visit, and no signing anything, no matter what they call it." I agreed. It sounded simple. Until the next message arrived. It was a photo, my mother shopping for patio furniture. "Retail therapy through grief," she captioned it. #self-care. That same day, she texted me claiming she couldn't afford her utility bill. And that's when I started printing everything. The formal invitation arrived in the form of a text message from my mother. "Sunday, 3 p.m., house. Let's resolve this. Bring your paperwork." No signature, no emoji, just a time-stamped grenade. Angela didn't like it. "This feels like an ambush," she warned. "It is," I replied. "But I'm not walking in blind." She offered to come. I declined. "I need to face them myself, but I want you waiting nearby." "One text," she said, "and I'll be at the door in 60 seconds. I arrived at exactly 2:59 p.m. The curtains were drawn. The porch smelled faintly of her perfume, which told me she'd been outside earlier, likely rehearsing. She opened the door before I could knock. "Francis," she beamed, hair freshly styled, teeth glinting like a campaign poster. "Right on time." Inside, the living room was arranged like a deposition. Corinne sat on the edge of the couch, spine stiff, hands knotted in her lap, Mason beside her, eyes down. My stepfather hovered near the fireplace like a bouncer. And there they were, two suited men seated in the armchairs usually reserved for family, legal pads, briefcases, wedding bandans on their left hands, smiles too wide. "This is Mr. Hale and Mr. Darnell," my mother said, gesturing grandly. "They've kindly offered to help us untangle this unfortunate misunderstanding." I nodded but didn't offer a handshake. I wasn't here to play polite. Only one chair was open, a high-backed wooden one placed squarely across from them all. Interrogation seating. I sat without a word and laid my leather folder across my lap. "Would you like some coffee?" my mother asked again, still stuck on her desperate illusion of civility. "I'm fine, let's get to it." Mr. Hale cleared his throat. "We're here today because your family is deeply concerned about the strain this has caused. No one wants a prolonged dispute, especially when your grandfather's intention was clearly for the family to stay united." I let the silence stretch. "He wrote a will!" My mother jumped in, her voice honeyed and firm. "And we're not disputing that, sweetheart. But surely you can agree that splitting everything between us would be more harmonious." "Harmony wasn't in the will either." Mr. Darnell opened his briefcase, sliding a stack of documents across the table. "This is a voluntary redistribution agreement. You retain a healthy percentage, 20%. The rest returns to the family, as was always understood." "Understood by whom?" Corinne finally spoke. "Grandpa was sick, Francis. He wasn't thinking clearly. He thought you'd know what to do." "I do know," I said calmly, "which is why I won't be signing that." Mason stirred. "Mom says if we don't sort this now, we might lose the house." "And why is that?" I asked, still calm. "Did someone take out a second mortgage again?" My mother's expression cracked for a split second, before snapping back into place. "Francis, don't do this." Mr. Hale jumped in. "It would be unfortunate if this moved to court. Claims of undue influence could muddy the estate's reputation." There it was. The threat, dressed up in legalese and polished leather. I placed my hand on the folder. "Before I respond, I'd like to clarify one thing." I looked at Craig. 6 months ago, you mentioned to Grandpa's nurse that you'd already put a deposit on a property in Naples. Was that with inheritance money you hadn't yet received? His mouth opened, then closed. "I have a recording," I continued, "and a paper trail." My mother's smile vanished. I opened the folder and laid out one sheet. A printout from my grandfather's ledger. His handwriting. "Loaned Denise $30,000. She said it was for Mason's college. Heard later it was a crisis cruise." Last time. Then the next. A dated Instagram photo of her sipping champagne aboard a ship. Caption, "Deserved this. #blessed." I looked up at the two advisors. "Still feel like drawing up paperwork today?" They didn't answer. Neither did anyone else. My mother stood so suddenly, her chair scraped against the hardwood. "You ungrateful little—" I didn't flinch. I just slid another paper across the table. "May 8th. You told Grandpa Rachel needed emergency dental surgery. He gave you 20 grand. I glanced at Corinne. "You were in Scottsdale that weekend. Spa package, right? I remember the monogrammed robe." Corinne went pale. Craig cursed under his breath. "Francis, this is low, digging through a dead man's notes to twist his memory against his own family." "He wasn't confused," I said. "He was exhausted, and he kept records because he knew this would happen." I reached for the last item in my folder, a sealed envelope, slightly worn, addressed in my grandfather's looping script, for Francis. If they come for it. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. But the two men in suits were already shifting in their chairs, the confidence draining from their posture. Mr. Hale adjusted his tie. "Miss Allard, we were told this would be a cooperative conversation." "It was never going to be that. And you're not legal counsel, are you? Just pressure brokers. I turned to my mother. You didn't tell them I already retained a real lawyer, did you? She's in a car outside. One word from me, and she's at the door. The two advisors stood up in near unison. We'll excuse ourselves, one muttered, snapping his briefcase shut. Mrs. Vance, we were unaware of any pending counsel representation. My mother's expression turned to stone. This isn't over, she hissed. Actually, I said, standing, it is. I gathered my documents, slow and deliberate. I'm not signing anything. I won't enable your spending, and I won't let you rewrite the past just because the present no longer suits you. You owe us. I owe Grandpa. That's who I'm honoring. Then Mason stood. Everyone froze, even Craig. I didn't know, Mason said quietly, about the cruise or the spa, or that you used my name to take money from him. He looked at Mom. You said Francis was selfish, but you lied. About everything. Mason, sit down, she snapped. No. The word hit like a bell. He turned to me. Can I come with you? I nodded. Let's go. Craig stepped forward, chest puffed. You little... I raised my phone. This conversation's been recorded. He stopped cold. We left in silence, passing the stunned faces of a family that had always assumed I'd bend. Not this time. Angela was already out of her car when we stepped onto the driveway. You okay? She asked, eyeing Mason. He's with me, I said. And we're done here. Behind us, the door slammed so hard the porch light flickered. But for once, I didn't look back. Mason didn't speak much on the ride back. He sat in the passenger seat, staring straight ahead, his fingers occasionally tightening around the seatbelt. When we reached my apartment, he followed me inside without asking if he could stay. He already knew. You're on the couch, I said. It folds out. Sheets are clean. He nodded. Thanks. We didn't talk about what happened. Not that night. We just sat in the quiet. I made tea. He drank it. I scrolled through emails. He stared at the ceiling. The silence wasn't heavy. It was healing. By morning, I had a plan. I returned to Grandpa's house, the one I now legally owned, but hadn't touched since the funeral. I unlocked the front door, the air stale with memory and dust. I went straight to his study. The smell of old paper, cedar, and coffee grounds still lingered. His desk was exactly as he left it. I opened the center drawer and found the journal. Flipping through its pages, I saw everything. Dates, numbers, names, annotations in his sharp, unfussy handwriting. And a new note I'd missed the first time, scribbled in the margin near the back. Francis has what Denise never learned, restraint, clarity. If she chooses to lead, this business may survive me. If she chooses to love, it may outlive us both. I sat there a long time, just breathing. That afternoon, I met Angela for lunch and showed her the journal. She helped me file it as supplementary evidence with the probate court, sealing any loophole that might be exploited later. We also drafted the paperwork for a small educational trust in Mason's name, just enough to support his degree without tying him to anyone's leash. Angela nodded as I signed it. This is clean, fair, generous. When I got home that evening, Mason was reading one of Grandpa's old trade magazines on the couch. You know, I said, leaning on the doorframe, he always wanted to expand the business into green materials. Eco-lumber, thermal concrete, but the board wouldn't move fast enough. Mason looked up. I remember. He used to rant about it during dinner. I smiled. What would you say to an internship? Real work, no shortcuts. He blinked. Are you serious? Completely. A slow smile spread across his face. Relief, hope, maybe a trace of pride. Then yeah, he said. I'd like that. We clinked mugs of cold tea in silent agreement. It wasn't the kind of legacy my mother wanted. It was better. 1 year later, A year later, I reopened the doors to Vance Materials, not as the quiet granddaughter, but as its next chapter. Mason now runs our eco division while finishing school. He's becoming the kind of man Grandpa used to hope he'd be, quietly capable, steady, focused. Corinne reaches out sometimes, in small, careful ways. I don't open the door wide, but I don't shut it either. My mother has disappeared into another zip code. For now. And that's fine. Some inheritances are measured in money. Others are measured in scars, in choices, in silence. Grandpa didn't leave me his empire out of favoritism. He left it because I was the only one who wouldn't burn it to the ground. In his journal, he once wrote, "Frances won't always be loved for doing what's right. But she'll sleep at night." He was right, I do. The wealth he gave me wasn't in stocks or property. It was in clarity, boundaries, strength. And in the end, I didn't just carry his legacy, I built my own.